parade. Awesome. All right, so
Should I wait for Facebook Live? Not yet, right? No live stream.
The hard work is done. It is, thank you. Oh, this is- yes.
Unless we want to march in formation around.
Oh, no, that'll keep us away.
Did you? I forgot to take down the chairs. Do you wanna let them know that they can grab the chairs and use them? No, I feel bad. I don't want them to be like, let me see if I can go
I
down.
was just thinking, what am
They
I
said they want,
So, yeah, what we were just saying at 6:50, 6:55, we'll bring them up and then we'll let them sit in the back. Taiwan is gonna do some of, like, roll call, all of that. And then when she calls moment of inspiration, they'll just come up.
okay,
Play, and then we'll have them filter out
okay.
afterwards. If that makes sense.
And how, did you contact, who did you contact for to invite? Who did you contact to invite them?
The band director, her name is Shawan Baptiste.
we can't use your computer because you don't have an HDMI out.
Yes, you do.
Okay, where is it? Awesome.
What, so you want to use them for future stuff?
We want to
They're so
invite them.
cute.
I know, I
They're
saw
really
them.
cute too. They're just
Yes, I saw them at the Joe Gavia event. The Brookhaven Chamber of Commerce did an event, like a recognition for Joe Gavia and everything. And
You want to log on so we can do a sound check?
oh my God,
No, no one's logged on.
I'm on.
Is Mindy on? Oh, then all is good. All right, so.
Wait,
Wait, Marcella, will you give me share screen? Melanie?
yes,
That's what's going on. I've been staying on Fairmont.
1 second, give me a second. Wait. Are you able to? Can I move my computer?
Move your computer where?
I don't want to be on camera. I can see myself on Mindy's computer.
Okay, all right, yes, you can move.
In here.
Pick it up and move them.
Are you sure it doesn't have to stay here?
Pardon me?
It doesn't have to be
No,
here?
it does not.
Okay.
That was only for the camera.
Okay.
We still have to. Pardon me? Oh, there they go.
It was crazy. And then I had realized that I didn't have my night lights on. It's just, I mean, just comes wherever, it's just crazy. It's back up. So far. Oh. I think just. Oh, no, come on, you.
Two votes for lined up.
But just come and, just what it is now.
So are you gonna administer back here? Do we have any duties yet?
Or, yes,
Evening, how you doing?
no. No,
We're just gonna have to do it live.
just,
It's gonna be bad.
why? Why is gonna be bad? Don't say that.
Because everyone's gonna be able to see what we were not able to do for the past 2 hours ago.
Very good. I don't know what you're saying. I think you're,
How'd you get the report? Yeah. Yeah, I think we had them when we were at the.
yeah, Linwood, at Linwood. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it good? No?
Food being very good.
It's good? Yeah. I heard some complaints from the food options last time. We have to check.
Public substitute carry off.
I only have 2 participants and that's it.
Which is both of us.
Uh-huh, exactly. You and Mindy. You and Mindy. I don't know if it's gonna create any issues that I'm on the meeting on another computer.
Hmm?
Is this the only computer you are logged in with your account?
Well, I'm on the,
Isn't that an issue?
it should be,
Yeah, that's why I'm not so sure about it. That, why are you using the iPad? Do you need to?
Not gonna use it.
No, yeah, I don't think it's a good idea.
I'm getting dizzy, Burke. Thank you. Mic check. Mic check, mic check.
Okay, can y'all hear me now? I
There
thought
we
there was
go.
gonna
There
be
we
like a
go.
feedback thing.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
All right. Oh, here, let me close out these windows for you.
We're
Hi,
here, we're here,
everyone.
we're here.
Yep. All right. So tight up here.
All right, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes,
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Well, welcome everyone, those on video and those in the room. Welcome to our November and our second to last commission meeting. Next month, we forge ahead with the moment we've all been waiting for. So it's an honor to have so many of us present in person tonight, and grateful for all of you who were able to join us online. We have a really exciting agenda today. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and do our normal order of business, which is our roll call. So when I call your name, if you will please just acknowledge your presence. So with that, Commissioner Alexander. Commissioner Alexander. Commissioner Anwar. Commissioner Arif.
Present.
Commissioner Arif. Commissioner Barrera. Commissioner Barrera. Commissioner Becerra. Commissioner Becerra. Commissioner Bowden. Commissioner Burnett. Commissioner Burnett. Commissioner Kane.
Present online.
Commissioner Kane.
Present.
Commissioner Cariello.
Present online.
Commissioner Cariello.
Present online.
Commissioner Collins. Commissioner Collins. Commissioner Cortez. Commissioner Cortez. Commissioner Cruz.
he's not here, he's traveling.
Thank you. Commissioner Hardy.
Present.
Commissioner Hershen. Commissioner Hershin, Commissioner Wright, Commissioner Knight, Commissioner Moses, absent. Commissioner Wall, Commissioner Wall, Commissioner Naglich, Commissioner Nelson, Commissioner Nelson, Commissioner Nisi, Commissioner Owen, Commissioner Owen. Oh,
Present online.
yep, I see her. Commissioner Petzold, Commissioner Petzold, Commissioner Palmer,
I'm present online.
Commissioner Palmer, Commissioner Pascal, Commissioner Russell, Commissioner Russell.
She's gonna join later. in like 15 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Todd, Commissioner Torres. No worries, thank you. Commissioner Wells. Commissioner Wells, just a few more. Commissioner Wendell. Commissioner Wendell. Commissioner Williams.
Here.
And Commissioner Woodward. Have I missed anyone?
We have a number of people on in the Zoom platform.
Commissioner Corn, and I'm present.
Not been identified, so if you identify-
Amy Corn, Commissioner Amy Corn.
Oh. I apologize.
I'm
That was my
present
fault.
online.
Thank you, Amy. Commissioner Corn, I have you noted. Anyone else? Did I miss anyone else? And it's a question here. Commissioner Palmer, did you have a question?
No, I was just trying to notify you that I was present.
Well, thank you, everyone. Now I'd like to move to the approval of the October 21st meeting minutes. Can I get someone to make a motion to approve the minutes? Can I get a second, please? Thank you. And I'd also like to look for adoption of the agenda as posted. Can I get someone to approve? Thank you. Thank you. All right, so I have a couple of quick announcements and then we'll get into kind of our order of business for this evening. So first and foremost, I'd like to congratulate former SJREC, our Social Justice, Race and Equity Commission Chair, John Funny, on his election to the Brookhaven City Council. Out there, John, congratulations. I'd also like to share that kudos to Brookhaven leadership as well as the commission, our commission. We were given at the annual State of the Region breakfast, which was held on November 16th. So, you know, this work is making a difference and people are noticing. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that there was recognition at that particular meeting. And then the last and final announcement is the reminder of our upcoming book club. As you all know, we modified the date and the book, as a reminder, is The Other Westmore. And the new book club date will be held on December 1st at 7 p.m. So normally, as you all know, at this point in the agenda, we normally have a moment of inspiration. But tonight we decided to mix things up a little bit and make this a little bit more celebratory. So with that, I am going to introduce the Cross Keys High School Band. Let me tell you a little bit about Cross Keys first. Cross Keys High School opened in 1958. It serves students from the Beaufort Highway Corridor in Brookhaven, Chamblee, and Doraville in the DeKalb County school system. It is the most culturally diverse high school in the state, with students from 65 countries who speak 75 different languages. Cross Keys High School's overall performance is higher than 62% of schools in the state and is higher than its district. Its students' academic growth is higher than 99% of schools in the state and higher than its district. We are honored to welcome the Cross Keys Tribe of Funk this evening and band director Shawan Baptiste and Stephen Vines.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Cross Keys High School, our principal, Dr. Brittany Cunningham, our regional superintendent, Melanie Perch, the DeKalb County School District, we are so pleased and honored that you would have us to entertain you tonight. Sit back, relax, and we hope we do a great job in doing so. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having us here. Okay, we really appreciate it. This is their first year as a drumline. Most of them have never touched the drum until August. So. Life's bad, you don't do this kind of stuff, so please invite us back anytime. More than happy to represent Brookhaven and Cross Keys with integrity and excellence. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much. That was absolutely amazing. And being your first year, keep going at it. You guys did an excellent job, and I wish you all the best. I don't know. Can y'all hear me? Yes. Oh, perfect. Okay. I'll let them. Wonderful. And online, I just want to do a double check. Can you hear me? Is there affirmation that they can hear me online?
We can hear you now. We couldn't hear anything.
Because I can't see them, so I. Can they hear me online?
Yes, yes, they can.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so now I'm going to invite our fabulous co-chair up, and she's going to introduce tonight's amazing guest speaker. So with that, Danita.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Caruana. Good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker tonight, Sumaya Khalifa. Sumaya Khalifa is the founder and executive director of the Islamic Speakers Bureau of Atlanta. Sumaya was born in Alexandria, Egypt, and moved to Houston, Texas at the age of 12. She holds an undergraduate degree in chemistry from the University of Houston and after moving to Atlanta, Georgia in 1988, received an MBA in Human Resources from Georgia State University. ISB launched in August 2001, a month before 9/11. To help dispel growing misconceptions about Muslims, the ISB sent trained speakers to churches, police agencies, and schools. Since then, ISB has been providing opportunities for people to learn about Islam and Muslims in an objective and educational manner through dialogue, outreach programs, presentations, and panels. By telling true and positive stories about Islam and Muslims, the ISB shares a powerful narrative that counters negative stereotypes so often associated with Muslims. Welcome, Sumaya.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh my gosh.
It's such an honor and pleasure to be with you all. I have to tell you, this was a really tough act to follow. And I mean that in every sense of the way. Oh my gosh, I mean, I can't compete with the beat and the young people. But hey, I'll try my best. Thank you so much for the very warm welcome and introduction. It's very generous of you. Wow, well, hello. Okay. Can y'all hear me with this? I can't move it out. Is that, can y'all hear me okay? And can y'all hear me okay and see me all right? Okay, great. Right, I'm assuming they're saying yes, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Y'all tell me if there's something different. Okay. All right, thank you. Well, greetings, Brookhaven. Shalom, Brookhaven. Assalamu alaikum, Brookhaven. It is so wonderful to be with all of you this evening. Well, thank you so much for the invite, Leslie. You know, whenever Leslie says anything, people have to do. I don't know if y'all got that or not, but that's a key learning for me over the years. Whatever Leslie says, you do. And I just love you, Leslie. So, as was mentioned, I was on the State of the Region event watching it, and Brookhaven was mentioned several times. This amazing work you're doing in this commission was acknowledged. And the chair of the Atlanta Regional Commission said, if y'all paid attention, he said, is there anybody outside of Brookhaven here today? Because there were many cheers, and it was like, and my heart was like, woo, 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 way to go, Brookhaven. So many, many congratulations. Not only that about Brookhaven, folks, but today I receive an invite from the Brookhaven Chamber of Commerce, along with the Sandy Springs and Perimeter Chamber of Commerce. They're hosting a breakfast meeting, and our governor is going to be speaking there. So let me tell you, Brookhaven is up and up, and it's just like everywhere. And y'all are showing people how to do stuff. So congratulations. As someone who does not live in Brookhaven, but only comes to your Costco, and I got so excited as I was driving. I was thinking, oh my gosh, you know, if I get out of there early, maybe I could do a shopping trip to Costco. I am impressed, thoroughly impressed with the city of Brookhaven. So many congratulations. So impressed with what y'all are doing, setting the stage for the next generations to come, who will be citizens of Brookhaven. In the Quran, the Muslim holy book, there is a verse that says, God has created humanity from tribes and nations so that we all get to know each other. There is another verse that says, what really differentiates people is their deeds and also how God conscious they are. When I look at your work and what you are doing both. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You are providing equal access and belonging to all citizens of this great city of Brookhaven. You all are change agents on steroids. That's what I see. You are creating the beloved community right here. You are showing the world what a community that comes together can do. you're charting the future of your city. How awesome and powerful is that? Not too many people get this incredible opportunity that you all have right now. So please, you are taking this responsibility, but also make sure you think about it deeply enough and let it get to you and have the sense of appreciation that you got this opportunity to do this work. It is so important to put in place the infrastructure that creates justice, that creates quality, but it's also as important to create a DNA of a city that is welcoming to people who live here, people who work here, and people like me who visit here. How does Brookhaven make you feel? This is the acid test, is asking people, when you hear the word, the city of Brookhaven, what comes to mind? And this is what y'all are working on. So this is a really huge undertaking. My own background was so generously shared. Yes, I was born in Alexandria, Egypt, and came to Dallas, Texas, not knowing a word of English. I only spoke French and Arabic. And I remember it was because of my mom. She was a medical doctor, and so was my dad. And my mom's research brought her to this country. And came here not knowing a word of English. And the first few days we stayed at a travel lodge in Dallas. And I still remember trying to communicate with the kids, and I had no idea how to do that. I went to Catholic French school in Egypt, and it was run by nuns, and we were only allowed to speak French all the time, very strict. They also had mass for the kids to go to the chapel and do mass. And that really intrigued me. I felt like, wow, what a neat way to, connect with God. So as a 4-year-old, I would go to mass in the chapel with my friends who were Christian. And then I would come home to my mom and tell her, I went to chapel today and I went to mass. And my mom would look at me, what a messed up child you are. Well, you're a Muslim. And I came up with this thing that I told her, I go to chapel to sing to God, and I come home as a Muslim to pray to God. So I had a way to share that. I was always intrigued as a young child in Egypt about Jews, about the Jewish tradition, because at that time, all the Egyptian Jews were out of Egypt. But I heard many stories from my mom about how wonderful the Jews were. And I always wanted to know people who were Jewish. And that did not happen until later on in life, when I worked in retail and met this wonderful Jewish person from New York. Her name was Ronit Linzer. And we became best friends. And I learned everything there is to learn about Judaism, Jewish traditions, and everything from Ronit. So I guess the reason I'm sharing this is because now I do a lot of interfaith work. But looking back at my own journey, it seems like I was really doing interfaith work when I was a very young child. So the blocks of building interfaith work were set very early on. Moving forward and growing up, I had several identities, and I thought I was really weird because nobody ever told me that they wrestled with many identities that they have. There was the Egyptianness of me, there was the Muslimness in me, there was the Americanness in me. And let me tell you, for many, many years, the three never really came together all the time to all the people. I was very selective who I showed what to and when, until I became very comfortable with who I was. I started wearing the headscarf and I told the world, here I am, ready or not. And that was a very pivotal time in my life, because at that time I wanted to be able to build bridges of understanding between the Muslim community in Metro Atlanta and our neighbors from many different communities. And that was why the Islamic Speakers Bureau of Atlanta was founded. And was mentioned, it started actually on August 18th, 2001. So that was less than a month before 9/11. We had no idea what was ahead. I think if we had known anything, we would have gotten cold feet and said, no, that's too big of a task to take on. So we have 20 years under our belt running this incredible organization. And the journey has been absolutely phenomenal for us and for me personally. We provide, as was so graciously mentioned, trainings. We provide sessions on understanding Islam and Muslims. And we work with law enforcement, we work with educators, we work with healthcare providers. And whenever there is an opportunity for us to add value as an organization, we do. Some of the things that we started and are running right now is a leadership institute, the ISB Leadership Institute, in collaboration with Kennesaw State University. The Muslim community did not have an engine to prepare people to be leaders. And so we undertook it to create that Leadership Institute. We also wanted to provide different narratives, and the narratives that people have in here day in and day out, and y'all know those narratives, right? If I walk down the street and say, what word association would you have with Islam and Muslim? And people would say, terrorist, women are oppressed. And I could go into a lot of stories with that. We also created recognition programs. We wanted to be able to share stories. And Leslie, I think you were involved with this one. In 2014, we rolled out the 100 Influential Georgia Muslim recognition and book. And in 2016, we had the 40 under 40 Georgia Muslims. And this year we did a 20 under 20, and I'll be happy to pass them around if y'all are interested. But this is to provide different narratives than the ones that we hear and see day in and day out. In addition to leadership development and in addition to leadership recognition and providing different narratives, we also are very involved in communities. We are involved with the Atlanta Community Food Bank in fighting hunger. We, under the umbrella of the Islamic Speakers Bureau, bring many different Muslim organizations to work with the Atlanta Food Bank. We are part of a summer lunch program in Fayette County. As a matter of fact, today, we delivered more than 50 Thanksgiving dinners to people in Fayette County who are low income and who qualify for free lunches at schools. So our work continues on being very relevant. So some of the things, just to mention a few, that I had an opportunity to be a part of because of the work of the ISB, that includes an invite to the White House for the Ramadan Iftar that's hosted by the president when we had Ramadan Iftars at the White House. And I was really thrilled because I sat at the president's table and I was sitting there and there was this empty chair on the round table. And I was just wondering how rude, somebody is late to this Ramadan Iftar. And then just a few minutes later, the president walks in and sits down. And you should have seen my heart. It was going, you know, it was just like so surreal. I also had an opportunity to collaborate with the Muslim Christian Dialogue in Geneva. And we worked together with the Atlanta Mayor's office to host Ramadan Iftars right here in the Atlanta City Hall. And that made Atlanta only one of a handful of cities that carries on a Ramadan Iftar. In addition to the ISB, I also have a consulting firm that specializes in diversity, equity, inclusion, or DEI, and intercultural training, executive coaching, and consulting. We help leaders and organizations navigate through different cultures successfully, and we do work with bringing religion as part of the DEI conversation into the workplace. A lot of people say, bring your whole self to work, but oh, by the way, leave your religion at the door. But if we really mean to bring our whole self to work, we need to bring a DEI, a lens of religion there as well. In the intercultural field, cultural intelligence is needed. And we need to acquire skills, knowledge, awareness, and attitude. But we also need to be able to manage our feelings, our judgment, and our thoughts and behaviors. So it's not good enough to just know about the others. How do we use that information? As human beings, we are programmed to go on autopilot. But when we do that, we go into our good old ways of doing things. A suggestion would be to do a 2-second rule. When we see something different, we take a deep breath and count to 2 seconds and assess what we're seeing and suspending judgment. I want to share 4 stages of cultural competence because I think it's relevant to the work that y'all are doing. The first one is unconscious incompetence. This is a blissful ignorance. People don't know what they don't know. Absolutely oblivious to anything. And that moves on to conscious incompetence, where one knows there are differences, but they don't know what to do about them. Then it moves on to conscious competence, where one knows what they don't know and they know what to do, but it takes effort for them to do what they need to do. And the last stage is unconscious competence. Unconscious competence. And that is like a child who is bilingual. And 3-year-old, 4-year-old, they know who to speak English to, and they know who to speak Arabic to, or Spanish to, or whatever to. So as people, we need to be striving to go to the conscious competence or unconscious competence. Yesterday, I was conducting a final session with the Johns Creek Police Department. We were doing cultural competence on working with American Muslims. And as we were sharing lots of stuff, the officers had a question about Muslim women wearing a headscarf. And they thought it was just hair. And if they had a traffic stop, they could ask the woman to take off her headscarf, and that's just hair. What's the big deal? Until I found out through our conversation that when a Muslim woman covers her hair, it becomes part of her private parts. It's like telling someone to take off their pants. And that was a big aha moment for them. So where do y'all think they were in that spectrum? Were they in the unconscious incompetence? Right? Probably so. They had no idea what they did not know, and they did not know how to deal with it. So the work that we do creates a win-win. It provides people with the tool sets in their toolkit to be able to interact with people better. And it also creates a better life for the recipients of that. You know, during the work that has been done over the several past decades, I want to share with you as a final thought, what are some of the key learnings there? First of all, that as human beings, we have so much in common. We do have differences, but our commonalities are much bigger than our differences. Relationships do matter. Relationships do matter. So getting to know people at the personal level really moves the world. It's okay to be authentic, because if we make up another person, it's very hard to keep that up. Kindness matters, and always be on the lookout for opportunities and don't ever say no. If you don't know how to do it, there's also somebody who could help, or there's always Google that we could count on. I cannot thank you enough for the opportunity to be with you tonight. I feel I'm part of this amazing Brookhaven history being written as we gather here tonight. Thank you all for taking on this extremely important work, and many, many generations to come will look at your work as the roadmap for their success and for the culture that you have built. Thank you again.
So are there questions at this time? We'd like to give you an opportunity to ask Sumaya questions, if you'd like, either there or here.
When you were starting this work and stepping into a space that, you know, you weren't sure how it was going to be received, what was like what were some of your biggest hurdles early on, outside of like 9/11, but just maybe some of your biggest fears and some of your biggest hurdles?
Sure. My biggest hurdles is first, I did not know what I did not know. I was unconscious incompetent. I had no idea how to run a nonprofit. I had no idea what to do with it, but it was a good idea and I went for it. And so did people who believed in what we were doing, and they were 100% behind the idea. Another, I think, hurdle was what was being done by the ISB was totally new for the Muslim community at the time, because we only had mosques, which they play a very important role. But in terms of outreach, that was very new. And then the other new thing that was 20 years ago is having a woman lead an organization that's, even though it's educational, but it has a tint of religion. So that was the first for the Atlanta Muslim community. So those were some things that I had to work around, and somebody was just reminding me that in the training sessions that we held, and we do training because we want people to be able to talk about Islam and Muslims within the guidelines of the First Amendment. So it's not preaching, it's teaching. And so one of the things that he remembers, I said, guys, listen, we're so glad you're here, but this organization is run by a woman. If you have any problems with that, please don't waste your time and don't waste hours. And he was remembering that 20 years later. So those are some of the hurdles that we had. Thank you for your question.
Other questions? Are there any from folks who are participating virtually?
Hi, Amy. Amy and I belong to Leadership Atlanta, and so I was so excited to see her name. Yeah.
Well, there are no other questions, so please join me in thanking Sumaya for her amazing presentation. Let me introduce you, let me reintroduce you. Now it's my pleasure to reintroduce you all to Commissioner Tawana Minor.
Let me pull the slides up for the folks on Zoom. Yeah, I need permission again.
Just a quick test. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me online. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Well, now is the time we have been waiting for. It is our subcommittee chairs will share their recommendations to be presented to the mayor and the city council on December 14th. Hopefully everyone had a chance to review the recommendations that were posted on Basecamp earlier this week. Before I bring up each co-chair, as we typically would, I'm actually going to spend a little bit of time first going through what we're calling the cross-cutting recommendations. Initially, the language that was used was overarching. They're the same thing. So I'll spend some time on that. These are recommendations to increase equity that are inclusive of or foundational to the issue-specific recommendations we are advancing for the 4 priority areas. They were prioritized by each of you in the survey that you completed in the past 2 weeks. And then after tonight, they will be posted to Basecamp. Myself and each co-chair will have 5 minutes to present, and then we will have 15 minutes as a full commission to comment. So please share any questions that may have arisen during your own self-review of the recommendations. And then at the end, we will ask for a vote. So with that, I will go through the cross-cutting recommendations, and then I will turn it over to Commissioner Naglich to present for hiring and retention first. Just to double check, I believe in the room you all have you've received copies of the PowerPoint, correct? And online, I think I have to advance. So wonderful. So cross-cutting recommendation number 1, I am not going to read this in full to you, but I want you all to read what is on the page. What I'm going to share with you are some data points that I think will help you understand the recommendation number 1. So on this page, just in case
They don't have.
Oh, you didn't?
They never got it, but it's fine.
Oh, you can see it up there? Okay. Okay. So maybe I will read it then. I thought you all got copies of the presentation, so I apologize. So that's okay. So let me just read it. So cross-cutting recommendation number 1, and if someone can hold me accountable to time, 5 minutes, please. Ensure accountability and robust community engagement by establishing a broad and diverse citizen-led group to present consistent opportunities for exposure, dialogue, and training on principles of racial equity and inclusion. Provide insight and perspective to city leaders, and monitor implementation of Brookhaven equitable policies and practices. 87% of Brookhaven residents care deeply or significantly about racial equity. 84% felt that Brookhaven should prioritize a commitment to racial equity, and 100% felt it was important to continue dialogue on issues of social justice. That's recommendation number 1. Recommendation number 2, embed racial equity principles and practices in all Brookhaven departments and operations, including enterprise level education and training of city staff, equity, analysis of programs, services, and communications, and development of strategic goals and metrics to ensure, to achieve and ensure equity. So 98% of the commission members supported the recommendation to embed equity practices and principles throughout the city. And commission members also highly recommended the following: that there should be, that the city should establish an Office of Equity, 75%, embed responsibility for driving and monitoring equity in 1 or more staff roles, 87.5%, include diverse participants in discussions into all Brookhaven arts, cultural, and community events, 100%, and reach out to other Brookhaven institutions and agencies, for example, housing and planning, to align equity goals and develop deliberate partnerships, 100%. Cross-cutting recommendation number 3. Incorporate and commit to deliberate strategic inclusion of Brookhaven's diverse racial and ethnic groups in all Brookhaven planning processes, commissions, and other efforts. Prioritize engagement of Hispanic and immigrant communities. 100% of commission members deemed it critical for the city to employ strategies to better understand, access, and include Hispanic and other diverse voices in its processes. Cross-cutting recommendation number 4. Conduct a comprehensive community equity assessment to understand residents' perception, understanding, and vision of racial equity, diversity, access, and social justice. Consider aligning this assessment with other city planning processes. 100% of commissioners recommended to conduct a comprehensive community assessment to understand residents' perception and understanding for social justice and equity. So again, 100%. And the last and final cross-cutting recommendation, conduct an enterprise-wide knowledge management and technology assessment to ensure the city's ability to capture key equity data. 94% of commission members recommended that the city do this. So these are definitely fact-based, data-based recommendations, and these are in addition to the recommendations that will come from your subcommittee. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Naglish, and he will present for hiring and retention. Uh-oh. Okay, hold on 1 second. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening. I think that cord, like, trying to like lift it up a little bit.
To be this one, I don't know. I can go analog here anyway, it's okay.
Yeah, I think we have to. Look.
Good evening, everybody. We have come up in the Hiring and Retention Committee with 3 recommendations for the full commission. The first one is to implement standardized policy of conducting written in-person exit interviews with all departing Brookhaven employees. We think that's very important to capture data, learn about potential issues, areas of concern, so those can be dealt with proactively and improve the situation with for the staff overall, and make it a better, more inclusive and welcoming work environment. The second is to develop standardized operating procedures regarding recruitment, hiring, onboarding, and retention of all staff. We want to, everything okay? All right. There weren't consistent policies in place, practices and procedures in place with the city regarding overall interview processing, standardized questions, systems for the onboarding of employees across the board, and plans for and on how to retain employees and keep employees with the city. When you're making that kind of investment in onboarding, bringing somebody on as an employee, you want to make sure that you have the policies and procedures in place, that they feel appreciated, that they're able to succeed, and we don't lose them to another job unnecessarily, that we retain the talent in the city so that we can keep things moving in the correct direction. And third, we recommended upgrading, expanding the use of computer programs to capture relevant data and analysis to address trends and potential issues. A lot of things to date have been handled manually. It's a really convoluted system. We think a lot of stuff's being missed or lost and not easily accessible. With proper use of the HR software that's out there, it'll better allow the city to see trends, potential issues, and address those proactively instead of reactively, and hopefully be able to resolve issues before they could really become a problem. And pleased to find out that the city is already moving in that direction with new software that will be implemented. Another important thing that happened this week, we had delay in our survey getting our report back. So those have not been included in the recommendations that are currently posted on Basecamp and that we're going over here. However, there were some issues in here, some stuff a little bit surprising, but was pleased talking with HR that they weren't completely shocked about it, that it was more validating the information that we got and is in line with the recommendations where we've presented here. So the plan is to completely go through this report that just became available last night, digest that information, and add some of that information into the rationale section in these recommendations. And that should be posted then to Basecamp next week. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Commissioner Naglich. Now is Commissioner Russell with us? Okay, okay. So I'm gonna give you the floor. Sorry. There she is. So let me get your slides up. I go backwards.
Good evening, commissioners. Given that we're the Vision and Mission Subcommittee, I'd like to remind everybody what the city's mission and vision statements are so that we know what we're talking about. So the city's vision is, which is actually very hard to find on the city's website, but the vision is Brookhaven will be Brookhaven will be nationally recognized as a beautiful community where multiple generations can live in safety, flourish in business, and succeed in a historic, sustainable environment with exceptional education and transportation options. As for the mission statement, in support of the Brookhaven vision, the city government shall encourage and maintain a beautiful community, meet public safety needs, develop an environment for business success, promote sustainable projects and activities, identify and preserve historic and neighborhood resources, facilitate educational opportunities, and improve transportation conditions, connectivity, and options while listening to and communicating with the public. So those were the statements. So we basically saw as our charge of our subcommittee to look at the mission and vision statements through an equity lens and to make recommendations to the city council to ensure that the city at its very core stands for equity, diversity, inclusiveness, and social justice. We wanted to gauge if in 2021, the mission and vision statements reflect the values, communities, and aspirations of this new city. So having said that, the recommendation number 1 is to rewrite the City of Brookhaven's mission and vision statements through an open and transparent process that intentionally engages community stakeholders, including but not limited to city staff, residents, business owners, students, and nonprofits. We feel that, the city's mission vision statements date back to 2014, just a couple of years after the city was founded, and we really believe that the mission and vision statements do not represent the city that we have today. It doesn't represent the values or the communities or the aspirations of the city. So our first recommendation is to have the mission and vision rewritten. The process obviously will be determined by city council, but our recommendation is that the city needs a new vision and a new vision. That's the first recommendation. And then the third recommendation was actually incorporated into the cross-cutting one. So Commissioner Russ is going to talk about recommendation number 2. Thank you.
Yes, good evening. This is Commissioner Russell. The mission and vision.
Give me 1 second, Commissioner Russell. It seems like we cannot hear you. Can you say something?
Yes, this is Tiffany Russell.
Here we go. Okay, we can hear you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person. It's good to virtually see everyone. I am here to present our recommendation number 2 from the Mission and Vision Subcommittee. And that is to conduct an equity review of the City of Brookhaven's charter every 5 years. That's concurrent with the city's mandated charter review. The rationale for this recommendation is without explicit guidance, the rules and procedures mandated by charters can perpetuate bias and inequities in how the city conducts itself. And so we thought regular review and careful review and updates of the charter with an equity lens can help to uncover and address those biases that infringe on equity and add sex to power. And so the background, to offer some background, is the city charter is a comprehensive document that really outlines the foundational principles and laws and procedures of the city and determines how power and duties are aligned with the government. And so every 5 years, the City of Brookhaven's charter must be reviewed by an appointed commission per the charter itself. And so we're recommending that the city's charter be reviewed every 5 years through an equity lens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we will have police accountability and use of force. So I'm gonna turn it over to Commissioner Wright Hudson.
I do believe Sharuk and I are supposed to present. I'll take the first couple of them and he was going to take the second ones.
I'm here, Bonnie.
Mike White is here.
Oh, yeah.
I can see you here. Oh, after, as I start, okay, that's Do you see it there? You see policing? Is that what you see?
Zoom's got higher retention number 3.
Interesting. Oh,
That says police.
yeah, that's what I see here. Interesting. Wow. Now, how would they have different?
Share and then share again.
Stop share. And then share it again.
What's that?
You got, do you have policing accountability? Cool beans. Well, good evening, everyone. So Sharuk, is Sharuk online? I hope so. Sharuk and
Yeah, I'm here, Monique.
Hey, you, look at that. He came through so loud and clear. It's like I thought he was here. I turned around. So I'm going to cover the first couple of recommendations. Our committee came up with 4 because, you know, we're overachievers like that. And so I'm going to cover the first 2. Sharuk is going to cover the second 2. And I was supposed to start my timer because I am long-winded. So you got me. Thank you. So our first recommendation is around capturing of data around race. And so the recommendation as it reads is to uniformly capture and report police data to provide an accurate representation of Brookhaven Police Department's interaction with people who identify as Hispanic compared to other races. And so this just was birthed out of the fact that when we look at data, Black and Hispanic arrests in Brookhaven are 79% of all arrests are Black and Hispanic. And then we look and we see that Blacks make up 17% of Brookhaven's population and Hispanics are like 27. And so those numbers are off. But then we also learn from the police department that the majority of arrests are from folks that don't live in Brookhaven. And so then we're like, well, what's the factors here? But we also know that people who visit Brookhaven are not overwhelmingly Hispanic. And so we're trying to figure out what that looks like. And we also understand that there are challenges in capturing race. They have to. The federal government requires them to. And so the way Brookhaven currently goes about doing it is through self-identification and then observation. And so while we learned that in the Hispanic community that this is already an issue, this is already a thing that we are working on in that community to try to figure out what that looks like, but wanting Brookhaven to just be uniform at this point. So at least we know what we're looking at. And so we've asked them to uniformly capture that data and work with those who know kind of the intricacies of that to be able to put a policy in place to just be able to capture the data, because we will not know what inequities exist and why they exist until we can have data we can rely on. So that's the first recommendation. The second recommendation deals with cultural competence. Oh, yeah. I guess I wouldn't need my paper if I was looking. Is that what you're trying to say? Second recommendation deals with cultural competency, which was encouraging to see that a lot of the things that we talk about in this recommendation are captured in that cross-cutting recommendations number 2 and number 4. So basically we want to increase BPD's cultural awareness. We want to do that through some self-reflection. And so being able to identify their own biases, to be able to identify their own thoughts and processes and making sure that they're interacting consistently with different cultures other than their own. And then also comes in that like an equity audit, some way to look at what you're doing and why. What we learned here is that while we're all well-intended, while we're all very committed to the work of the commission, there are people out there that do this work. And so we've asked that Brookhaven, look at that and retain the people who are able to do those things to continue this work and look at it. So having an equity audit, increasing their cultural competency through their own self-assessments, and then also we talked about hiring an equity officer and having that, and that's something else that was included in the cultural competency cross-cutting recommendation. So that is really the crust of recommendation number 2. There is a whole lot there. We've done a lot of work and we have a lot of resources. So if you look closely at our recommendation, you will see kind of where that's coming from. So those are our first 2, and then Sharuk has our second 2. And then we also have just a little note on the name and change of our subcommittee, kind of putting in line the fact that we're not really discussing use of force, so. Sharuk?
Sure. Thanks, Monique. Thanks, everyone, for giving us the time. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I had knee surgery a week ago, so I'm actually laying in bed with my leg propped up right now. So our first recommendation was around expanding the access to mental health professionals who respond to calls with BPD. So I'm not sure how many folks know this, but BPD actually started a program last October where they staff mental health professionals to go out with police officers when it is a call that's related to mental illness that they know about, or it feels like it might be related to mental illness. So our recommendation would be to expand that program. Those folks are only available during business hours during the weekdays right now. And so we'd like to see that program expanded to be over the weekend and to be overnight as well, because as we all know, you can't predict when those incidents are going to come up. And so it'd be great to have those folks available to respond. The next recommendation we have,
Oh, no, that
one
was.
slide forward, one slide. Perfect, thanks. So the next recommendation we have is around surveying. So we were one more forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. So we used a survey to do outreach within the community, and we did that by working with BPD to understand who they had existing partnerships with, and then figure out who we wanted to add to that list that we felt might be missing from that list or should be included in that list. What we found as we reached out into these different communities is that it was actually really hard to get engagement, right? It takes a lot of work to find the organizations that you want to reach, to follow up with the organizations that you want to reach. And then you're still struggling with getting down to not just kind of the people who are responding to the emails for the organization, but the folks who are within the community itself, right? And getting survey respondents from the community and how they feel and what their perception of a partnership and trust with BPD looks like. So our recommendation is to really start to programize this survey, right? And focus in on how we can create partnerships with religious organizations, with civic organizations, with social welfare organizations, so that in a meaningful way, by creating programs that target specific areas, marginalized communities, and have goals that are associated with them. We can do that. If we can do that, then it'd be easy for BPD to start to create metrics around how those goals are progressing and how that community program and outreach is going. And from there, what they can do is use the survey as a mechanism, now that we're more embedded in the community, to get information directly from the community to see how they're working against those metrics, right? So it creates a better feedback loop in terms of understanding from the community directly to BPD of what their perception is, but it also starts to take a lot of these activities that BPD is holding within the community today and targets them towards specific marginalized communities. There's a couple more aspects to this recommendation. So the second aspect is to start focusing in on community policing. And so there is that Janice, I believe, on the commission found grants that are available for training through the federal government, I believe, on community policing. And there are several initiatives that have been set up around this. So there's a lot of opportunities to get funding and bring in best practices around community policing and start to train the officers regularly on that. And then lastly, we spent some time as a committee going through the complaint data. So BPD provided, I don't know, something like 5 years worth of complaint data to us. And there were some threads that we found in there, nothing too crazy, and BPD reviews it themselves to improve their training programs to understand what kind of complaints are being made against officers in the field. And so one of our suggestions is to contract an external auditor to do an annual review of that complaint data, just to make sure there's a third party that's taking a look at it, figuring out if there's any improvements to policies or trainings that can be made based on patterns they see, and also making sure that existing policies are being applied appropriately. That's kind of a meaty one, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you, Sharuk. And so just in closing, you'll see that our recommendations around community trust, racial data, mental health and cultural competency really did not deal with the use of force part of policing accountability and the use of force subcommittee. And we found that that's what Brookhaven needed. And so this type of work is embodied in the term legitimacy. It's a policing legitimacy is a term of art that is being used now. And so legitimacy is the community's belief that police are legitimate and their willingness to follow them, their willingness to follow their orders. And so we were recommending that when this is presented as police accountability and legitimacy recommendations, so that we are tailoring expectations from the community in that they're not looking for policies on use of force, because quite frankly, BPD has had very little use of force opportunities. So we weren't able to really analyze that data. So thank you and have a good day.
Thank you both. And last but not least, I'm not sure who's presenting, and since I've gotten this all wrong all night, so I wasn't sure who was presenting. Who will speak on behalf of procurement and contracting? Because Jim is not, he's not able to be here with us this evening. Is anyone going to present for procurement and contracting? If you can hear me online. Okay. Okay, wonderful.
I'll be very brief. I probably don't have all the background that Jim would share.
No worries. Let me get to your slide. Bear with me. All right, so you will have to, let me move so you can see your slides. You'll have to advance. Push the board. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So our subcommittee has 4 recommendations. The first one really gets, and all of them obviously relate to procurement and contracting. The first one gets to the types of documents that are part of the procurement and contracting process. And this recommendation says to ensure that requests for proposals are written in plain language and minimize the use of technical jargon where appropriate. The second recommendation gets to the fact that contracting. And so I just want to share one stat with you all because I think it's so interesting. In 2020, 7.5% of the contracts totaling 2.2% of the total procurement spend were awarded to vendors identified as minority owned. 7.5 of the contracts totaling 2.2%. So our recommendation there is to implement a simplified, easy to understand, more accessible and streamlined contract process and interactive communication channels for all vendors. I'll ask Psyche to come forward to share the next 2 recommendations.
The third recommendation was to commit awarding 33.3% of all funds spent by the city on procurement and contracting to businesses that identify themselves as minority owned, with the aim to increase this percentage to by at least 5% each subsequent year. And the background to this was that of the 53 contracts that were awarded in 2020, only 4, that is 7.5% of all the contracts, were awarded to businesses that identified as minority owned. This equates to about $657,000, or 2.2% of all the expenses procured by the city of Brookhaven. So there is a big gap, and that is the gap that we were trying to address. The rationale was that these findings demonstrate a substantial inequity in the procurement and contracting process. Hopefully, this recommendation provides tangible targets and benchmarks that the city can aim for and use to measure its success year over year. Number 3 is to initiate more frequent reviews and assessments of the city's procurement and contracting process. The survey that was sent out by this commission reported varying levels of satisfaction with different components of the city's procurement process. If you look at the whole value of the whole life cycle of this procurement process, with many respondents omitting questions, and a majority of those who did answer questions did answer responding that they were unable to rate their satisfaction level, the clarity or ease of the process. So unfamiliarity with the process really stood out. Although the survey was difficult to assess due to the lack of enough responses, it made the need for a more robust assessment tool for the procurement process all the more evident. Is there another one? Thank you.
All right, so as promised, we have now gone through all of the committee's recommendations. I hope you all are as proud as I am, and I hope you all are just proud of yourselves too. I mean, everyone has done such great work, but I want to make sure that we've all had a chance to really look across, not just within our spaces, and really see, are there some opportunities? Are there some questions? Are there some things that maybe need a little bit of clarifying? So with that, we want to use this time to allow you all to raise questions to your peers. So I will give a moment of silence for those online. We can hear you very clearly in the room, so feel free to raise your hand and I will call on you. And for those in the room, raise your hand as well and I will call on you, and I would just ask that you come to the podium so that those online can hear you. Oh, yes. Never. Is it wireless? Oh, okay, perfect. I'll bring it to you. Okay, I'm just going to give it a second. There was a lot of information covered. Any questions in the room while we see if anything comes up online?
Commissioner Andy Corn says great work, everyone.
Thank you. All right. This awkward moment of silence, right?
So in a couple of the presentations, I thought everything was excellent. There were references to opportunities to have updated information. Can we talk a little bit about how the recommendations could potentially be updated before we bring them forward on the 14th?
Sure. And Commissioner Knight, are you speaking? I know hiring of retention mentioned one, and I forget the other. I think that was the only. Okay. Yeah, so the goal will be, and keep me honest here, William and Leslie, is now that we have the additional data from the survey, which we did not have when the recommendations were prepared, we've invested in that. So we want to make sure that we go back to what they have and maybe subtle changes. And the goal will be to post that so that the full commission can have view to it. And then we will ask for a vote, likely through base camp or some other fashion, but we'll make sure that that's very clear. Thank you. You're very welcome. All right. Any questions online? Last chance here. Oh, you all are like, we are ready to do the running man and. All right, wonderful. Well, hold on, let me just put this mic down. All right, well, again, job well done. And I think we are well poised for December 14th, and I cannot wait. And with that, please make sure, I know a lot of base camp utilization has gone down quite a bit, and that's fine, but I would just ask that you all take responsibility to put the 14th at 7 p.m. in your calendars to make sure that you leave that space open and available, because we hope that the majority, we realize some will probably be online, and that is perfectly fine, but we really hope you will join us in person on that night. That is going to be such an important night for us. So I would ask that you do that. And between now and then, Chrysalis Lab will help us to develop a PowerPoint that provides a brief overview of our process and recommendations. And I urge you all, like I said, to attend, whether it's live or Zoom, but this is what we all have worked so hard for, and we don't want to miss this opportunity. And I'm sure the mayor and council are also looking forward to seeing you all as well. With that, I would like to ask Christian, if he is still with us, to share with us what we can expect at the session, and then take any specific questions that anyone from the commission chairs have. So with that, Christian, are you still on? Oh, there you are.
Yes, I am.
Oh, perfect. And we can hear you loud and clear. So can you share with us what we can expect?
Excellent. Yes. Excuse me. The next meeting of the city council is December 14th. It's the last legislative meeting of the year. Presentations are typically done at the beginning of the regular meeting, which starts at 7 p.m. Normally they're limited to 10 minutes, but I'm sure the council is going to greatly expand it for the presentation of this report. I'll leave it to you all if you want to have your chair do all the recommendations, or do like we did today and let the subcommittee make their recommendations specific. I know the report is being written. I think there's a design of a cover floating around between the communications department and the chair and Chrysalis Lab. The city council and mayor will receive the recommendations that you described, and we'll give them a hard copy of the report. I think they will probably ask to schedule public hearings where we'll do it after the first of the year, a couple of public hearings to get public input on the report. During that period leading up to and during the public hearings, the administration, I will read a response document, which will be basically a draft implementation plan of the recommendations, and what things we're working on already, what things can we do right away, what things will require additional research or resources. Hope to have that done in the first 30 to 60 days into next year. And then the council will adopt the report. I don't know if they'll make any changes because I haven't seen the reaction to it because they haven't gotten it yet. But they'll adopt some report and charge me with implementing it. At that point, I will work with department heads on their goals and objectives individually and collectively to implement the various recommendations in there. I would be prepared, given the breadth and depth of the recommendations. Some of them we're working on right now. Some of them might take 2 or 3 years to actually get done. So don't expect it all to get done immediately, but we're already working on some of them right now. So with that, I will take any questions.
We have a question in the room, Christian.
I wanted to know whether, I guess really a question for Tawana, what is your thought process? Are you going to want to present all of the recommendations yourself, or do you want the subcommittee chairs to come prepared to present their own recommendations? And then do we have a time limit, and will it be much harder because you weren't a hard timekeeper tonight?
No, we had time. No, so I'll be working with Leslie on the timekeeping aspect, and trust me, the city is going to hold me very accountable to the time. As far as the recommendations, I firmly believe this commission has worked really hard. You all deserve to make those recommendations to the mayor and the city council. So it's my recommendation that we would do something very similar to this evening. It is also a moment of recognition for you all too. I mean, it's not just presenting that, but you have worked so hard. And I feel as though that's the best course of action. So I hope that I have your full support, because I think you deserve that. And I think our city deserves that. So, thank you. Any other questions? I'm gonna check the chat, make sure. It's quiet, okay.
Oh, and also I would expect some Q&A with the council. They'll ask some questions.
And if everyone, not sure if you heard him, but he said he expect Q&A from the council as well. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Christian. Now I'm going to just pivot back briefly. I know some folks have to depart a little bit early, but I want to go back to the recommendations very quickly and ask for a motion to approve the recommendations that were reviewed this evening.
Tom Woodward, make that motion to approve the recommendations we presented this evening.
Thank you. Can I get a second? All right. Thank you. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Online? Can't hear you. I heard one.
Aye.
Yay. All right, the ayes have it. So we are ready to rock and roll come December 14th, with the one exception with hiring and retention, which we will provide you with an update via Basecamp or email. So stay tuned. And again, Christian, thank you so much for that guidance there. Now it is time in normal fashion to invite our public comment on Zoom or Facebook, which Burke will monitor for us. Please bear with me as I share the following reminders for public comments. Please give your name, address, and district you live for the record. Respect the rights of the speakers to be heard and be aware that Brookhaven's decorum rules for public meetings are still in effect during public comments. In order to respect the time of each speaker and the rights of all citizens who wish to comment, the commission shall not cut a speaker's time by engaging in dialogue or answering questions. Remember that each speaker or comment is limited to 3 minutes. Burke, are there any questions or comments on Facebook or Zoom?
Checking Facebook Live, checking the public comment email account, and checking our Zoom attendee gallery. We have no comments.
Thank you so much.
Madam
All right.
Chair. I have my hand raised, Madam Chair.
We have our former chair and our new commissioner of District 3 or 4, excuse me. I got it. With us. We gave you a shout out earlier, John, so I don't
I
sure.
did hear it. I did.
Welcome. What is your
Thank you.
question?
Thank you. Not a question. I have a public comment. Just want to, I'm sorry, I'm John Funny, reside in District 4 and council person elect for District 4. First, I want to thank everyone on this commission that have committed your time and energy to really provide the assessment of the areas that you were challenged to do. And I am just overwhelmed by hearing the work that have gone into this, and the resultant of that is what you presented tonight. So I just wanted to give public comment to say thank you, thank you, thank you. This is very meaningful to the quality of life we have here in the great city, the best city of the city of Brookhaven. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Anyone else? Any other comments? All right, awesome. With that, I am going to now officially close the public comment period. And now I'm going to turn it over to Leslie and Mindy and ask the Chrysalis team to come on up to the podium.
Good evening. So this is it, y'all. This is our last formal commission meeting, and it has been an honor to serve you, as both John, both our former chair and current chair have indicated. You've worked so hard, and we saw it. We saw late Friday night discussions back and forth and getting that homework. We saw the labor you put into it, and it was a labor of love. It really was. And it was amazing to think that this was all on a volunteer basis out of your love for your city. And so thank you. And thank you for letting us be a part of that. As our chair mentioned, we will be in touch, particularly with the co-chairs, to develop the presentation for City Hall, but the work is done and it's beautiful work. I also want to say that all of your recommendations intact, the way you submitted them, will be maintained on the city website in the archives, and they will be there for your future reference for whoever picks up this work to be able to use your labors and your thinking. Nothing's been changed from those. Of course, from PowerPoints, we shrink them, but they're all there intact. We wouldn't want to touch them because they're precious. So we have a gift for y'all. And for those who aren't here, we'll send it to you as soon as we can. But you may recall that a few months ago, we shared in our inspiration the poem by Amanda Gorman that she shared or presented to the world on Inauguration Day, entitled "The Hill We Climb." And we felt it was something that we wanted to provide to you. And it has an inscription in there for each of you commissioners for all of the work you've done and for honoring us to let us work beside you. And so we also wanted to just lift up a stanza of that for you, the whole team. I get to get up here a lot. You see Mindy a lot, but you know, and you know all of us as a whole team. And so we're just going to share a little bit of that stanza that recognizes the work you've done, a stanza from that poem that recognizes the work you've done. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine. But that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect.
We are striving to forge a union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man.
And so we lift our gazes, not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first. We must first put our differences aside.
So we lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another.
Thank you.
All right, just a few more announcements and then we will close. For those who are in the room and those who may not be aware, we have a videographer in the back room and would love for each of you to say a few words. The two questions that'll be asked, and those who are online, you're going to have an opportunity to record as well. So please do not feel you will be left out. And the two questions are what this experience has meant to you as a Brookhaven resident, and what you hope this work will yield for all Brookhaven's current and future residents. So if you haven't had a chance to do a recording, would ask that you just a couple minutes. I promise it's painless and it's quick, but we would really appreciate that. And like I said, for those online, we will make sure that you have the same opportunity virtually as well. And with that, I just want to remind you again, December 14th, 7 p.m. is our big moment, what we've worked so hard for. I want to thank you again for your time and your tireless commitment, your energy, your efforts, your heart. This has truly been a labor of love, and I hope you have felt it along the way. And I just want you to know, as chair, you know, I stepped in a few months ago, and just really just want to say it has been an honor. I feel so honored just to really work alongside each of you, and it's just been so inspired by all the work that each of us have done collectively together. I want to remind folks, if you've never heard the saying before, to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you take others with you. And it's been a journey, an honor to be on the journey with you. So thank you all so much.
Commissioner Wright.
Commissioner Wright? Oh, there you are.
Hey, I didn't leave y'all. I just wanted to thank you for just really stepping in and being extremely encouraging. Your comments and your notes, and you know, the fact that we can tell you're reading what we write is really been encouraging. And so it's one thing to lead a subcommittee, it's another thing to lead to lead all the co-chairs of the subcommittees and do the work. So thank you so much for stepping in a time that I know was difficult for you, and thank you for you and both of you, to just come in and do the work. It's been amazing, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So do I just, no, I have concluded the meeting. So do you all do that, or am I supposed to do? Okay. Perfect. No, I've shared my final thoughts. So thank you. Good night, everyone. And we will see you on December 14th, 7 p.m. Put in your calendar. Thank you.